Hi guys, and welcome back to I Speak English. My name's Hayley, and in this lesson today we're going to be taking a look at a really essential grammar point for your Cambridge C1 exam, and that is concession. If you don't know what concession is, I'm going to explain it in a moment. I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do to make this grammar structure, and we're also going to be taking a look at where in the exam you're going to use it. So we're going to look at some writing, we're going to take a look at some speaking and some keyword transformation as well, because that's where you're going to need to use this grammar point. But before I show you how to do that, please do make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, and if you found this video useful, please do give it a like as well. It just helps it to get to more people, and then they can get some prep for their Cambridge C1 exam as well. So make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell. I do give free lessons every Saturday, long form lessons every Saturday on YouTube, and I upload shorts every single day so that you can learn English for free with me every week or every day. And on that note, let's get started. Okay, so at this point you may be thinking, what is concession? I've never heard of it. I didn't know I needed to do this in the exam. Let's take a look at what that actually is then. So concession, it's basically when you kind of admit something that goes against the main point that you're trying to make. So you're kind of making a contrast between what you're saying. For example, you could say something like, while I agree with your point, I believe it still needs more evidence. So that would be an example of concession. But why is concession important then? So examiners are expecting you to be able to show your knowledge of this grammar point in the exam. They're expecting to see it in writing. Again, I'm going to show you some examples in a second of how you can use it in writing in a kind of natural way. Speaking as well, you could use it, again, kind of speaking part 3, it would be really good to use speaking part 4 as well. I'm going to show you some examples of that later. And you may get tested on it in use of English as well, keyword transformation, they might test you on it there. So it is very important that you know this, okay? You need to demonstrate that you have knowledge of this grammar point. But how do we make it? Okay, so there are different kind of structures that you can use to make concession or to kind of make this contrast. Some of them are quite easy. You probably know how to do this already, or you should know if you're C1 level. You can use conjunctions like although and even though. Okay, so even though it was late, she stayed out. Although it was late, she stayed out. That's a concession because you're making a contrast between your main point and your kind of subordinate point. Okay, so that's the super easy way that you probably already know. The next one, concessive phrase much as, if you use this in the exam, you will get high points. Okay, because it's quite a rare sort of form, and it's very formal and it's very advanced. So if you can use this in your writing, you'll get way more points than just using even though or although. Okay. And literally all you have to do is change the word even though or although for much as, and it works exactly the same way, okay? So much as I enjoy running, I prefer cycling. It means exactly the same as even though I enjoy running, or although I enjoy running, I prefer cycling. It's just a bit more formal, it's a bit more advanced, and it's a bit of a kind of rarer form, so you'll get more points for it. So definitely keep this one in mind, write this down because it's very useful for you. Okay. So that's another way to use concession. An extra way to use concession is kind of with inversion. So what you need to do here, you need to use an adjective or an adverb with either as or though, and then a subject and a verb. So for example, if I said, hard though it may be to accept, change is necessary. That's exactly the same as saying, even though it may be hard to accept. Okay, so we are inverting here. We're taking the adjective and we're just putting it at the start of the sentence instead. And we're getting rid of even though. Okay, so this comes to the start of the sentence and we get rid of it even though, like we do with inversion forms. If you don't know how to make inversion forms, I have got a video up here. I'll link that there for you. That's another very essential grammar point that you'll be tested on in Cambridge C1, so make sure that you watch that video if you don't know how to do it. But inversion forms with concession, get rid of even though, or whatever your kind of contrasting adverb is. Take your adjective or your adverb, move it to the front of the sentence. Add though or as. So here I could say hard as it may be, or hard though it may be, and it means the same. There's no difference in meaning, okay? Hard though it may be, to accept change is necessary. And then we add our subject, and then we add our verb, okay? And that's all we need to do in a inversion form with concession, okay? I'll give you another example, okay, again. So we've got our adjective at the start, tired. Tired as he was, he kept going. Again, it means the same as even though he was tired, he kept going. It's the same. We're just inverting. Well, not really inverting because your subject and verb stay in the same structure. They stay in the same order, but you just move your adjective at the start of the sentence. So it's relatively easy, really. It's just remembering to do it. Again, why do you need to do it? You just need to show variety. In your writing in particular, it's good to have a kind of variety of sentence structures so that you're not repeating yourself. And it's just good to demonstrate that you have knowledge of this, because then the examiners can kind of give you a tick on their mark sheet. You just get some high marks. Okay. All right, I'm going to test you then. So you've just seen a couple of inversion forms. Let's have a test. What I want you to do is rewrite the sentence I give you here in the comments, rewrite it in the comments using a concession, okay? So put it in the comments and I'll correct you. So your sentence is, I admire him, but I wouldn't vote for him. And you need to use much as to make a concession. All right, so I'm gonna give you 10 seconds to rewrite that sentence in the comments. You can also pause the video if you want to give yourself more time, but try and use a concession for me and I'll correct you in the comments. All right, off you go. All right, your time is up. Okay, I am going to give you the answer here as well, but I'll also correct you in the comments anyway. So the answer here, you should have written, much as I admire him, I wouldn't vote for him. Okay, so we need to have much as at the start, and then we're just deleting but here. You don't need this but because you've already got your contrast here. Much as is your contrast, so we don't need but. Okay, so much as I admire him, I wouldn't vote for him. All right, I've got another one for you. So again, I'll give you about 10 seconds, write your answer in the comments. Your sentence is, it was expensive, but people bought it. And we have expensive though. So you've got 10 seconds, rewrite this using that concession in the comments. Off you go. All right, your 10 seconds are up. Hopefully you've written something there. You should have written, expensive though it was, people bought it, or people still bought it. You could also add still in there as well. So again, we need to put our adjective at the start with though, expensive though, subject, and then your verb, and then what you're contrasting. Okay. All right, one more for you. We've got, he's very rich, but he isn't happy. And I want you to use despite to make that concession. Again, you've got 10 seconds. Write me a sentence in the comments using a concession. Off you go. All right, and your time is up. What did you put? You should have written, despite being very rich, he isn't happy. Okay, so remember, despite takes a verb and ing. You cannot say despite be. You cannot say despite he is very happy. You need to use a verb and ing with in spite or in spite of as well. All right, so test is done. You should be kind of clear on how to make your concessions. Now we're going to take a look at how to use it in the exam. So first I'm going to show you some examples in writing, and then I'll show you some examples in speaking as well. All right, so writing. In your essay, what can you use concession for in your essay? You can use it to show contrast between two ideas. You can also use it to kind of acknowledge a different argument or an opposing argument from the one that you're making. Okay, so this would be good. You could use this maybe in the conclusion of your essay. That would be quite nice because, again, you're kind of acknowledging that there is another option that could be better, but you're deciding on one option that is the most important or the better option. Okay. For example, you can use something like, although many believe that technology isolates people, it can also foster global connections. Okay. So again, we've got our concession here, although, with your contrast, and then your main point here. This could also maybe be used as like an introductory sentence as well. You could even introduce your idea like that. So although many believe that technology isolates people, it can also foster global connections. That's your main point for your first paragraph. And then you would explain it, say why does it foster global connections, and then give an example to kind of back up your theory. If you're not sure how to write an essay, I do have a full kind of walkthrough. I'll put the link up there, and it shows you kind of everything that you need to include in your essay, structure, vocabulary, and you can actually watch me write one in real time as well. So that might be helpful for you. I'll put it up there if you're struggling. All right, another example for your essay, as I said, conclusion, because you need to make a choice but also acknowledge the other option. So you could say something like this, or write something like this. Much as I agree that schools need to focus on academics, creativity should not be neglected. Therefore, it would be advisable to spend funding on art-based subjects. Okay, so again, you're making a decision, but you're still acknowledging the other option that you've been arguing for in your essay. Okay, so that's a couple of examples for your essay. In your report, you can definitely use this in your evaluation. So you need to do quite a lot of evaluation in your report. That's basically what your report is. You're evaluating something that happened. And it's good for showing kind of limitations or drawbacks of something. So again, let's take a look at an example. For example, although students generally found the canteen service satisfactory, some expressed concerns about the pricing. Okay, so again, you're reporting problems that have happened. You're reporting what people have said. You can report positives and negatives, and this is a good way to do that. You know, okay, well, this was good, but this was bad. But instead of saying in that way, you use a more kind of formal, advanced way to get your point across. So that's how I use it in a report if I were you. Proposal, you can also use it in as well if you're kind of acknowledging potential problems before you give a solution. Okay, so again, your whole proposal is how to, fix a problem. You're trying to fix a problem and giving a solution to that. Again, if you're not sure how to write a proposal or like the difference between a report and a proposal, I've got a video, I'll put that up there for you. You can take a look at that later. So an example for a proposal, although it might require additional funding, installing charging stations would benefit all students. Okay, so remember, you're trying to be kind of persuasive here, but you're trying to kind of make it look like the positives outweigh the negative. So it's like you're acknowledging the negative, but ultimately this thing is positive and the reader should take action because that's what you want the reader to do. You're trying to persuade them to do something. Okay. All right, nice. Also, again, kind of making persuasive recommendations at the end. Okay. Using adjectives like difficult or crucial or kind of emotive sort of adjectives. For example, difficult though it may seem, the proposed mentoring scheme could make a substantial difference in students' lives. Okay, so again, it's just that bit more persuasive, and you're also being more balanced as well in the way that you're writing. You're not making big sweeping statements. Okay, so good for making recommendations in proposals and your letter. Okay, this is really good for complaints, actually, a letter of complaint in your formal letter if you're trying to like justify the complaint that you're making, because it makes your complaint more formal and a bit more polite. Okay, for example, you could say something like, although I understand the hotel was fully booked, I believe alternative arrangements should have been made. Okay, so again, rather than kind of getting a bit shouty in your letter of complaint or a bit angry, you're again a bit more balanced, a bit more polite, but still formal. Right, another example in a letter, again, just to make a complaint. You could say, for example, much as I value your efforts, I must express my disappointment with the outcome. Okay, so still a complaint, but still polite, still formal. You could even just take that whole phrase and just memorize it if you want to try to use it next time you're writing a letter of complaint. Right, so that's it for the writing. Now we're going to take a look at speaking. So concession is really good in speaking, particularly if you're doing speaking part 3 and you want to kind of acknowledge your partner's point, but also give an opposing opinion. Okay, so if you don't kind of fully agree with what your partner's saying, in part 3 you could say, for example, although I see what you mean, I think cost is a bigger issue. Okay, so you're discussing one of the options and you're like, yeah, not sure. If you use a concession like this, you get higher points for grammar, and it's kind of just a bit more concise, really, a bit more advanced. Okay. So, although I see what you mean, I think X is a bigger issue. So definitely use it in that way, speaking part 3, really useful. Again, to kind of gently disagree with someone, all right? For example, much as I agree with the idea, I'd still go for this other option. Okay, so again, you're kind of letting that person down gently. You're not saying directly, absolutely no, I disagree. You're just saying, much as I agree, I'd still go for the other one. So really good for speaking part 3. You can also use it in speaking part 4 as well. Again, just to give a contrast. Okay, for example, if you get the question, do you think teenagers should have more freedom? You could say, although I think freedom is important, teenagers still need guidance. Okay, and then etc., what the rest of your point is. Okay, so again, you're just kind of making that contrast between your main point and an opposing point. All right, and one more example. Again, speaking part 4, say I ask you, should schools ban mobile phones? You can use while. Okay, while phones may be a distraction, they're also useful for learning, and then you carry on your point. Okay, so you're just contrasting different points. Right. Okay, right, that's it. That's how you use concession in your Cambridge C1 exam. So if you found that useful, please do give this video a like. It just helps me to kind of know that I'm doing the right thing and that you do find the videos useful, so I'll keep making more. If you have any suggestions of videos or any questions about the Cambridge exam, let me know in the comments. I'll try to make some more videos for you. I'll get back to you when I can. And if you need any more help with the Cambridge C1 exam, I do give lessons full-time. You can visit my website, www.englishclassesonline.co.uk, and you can join my C1 group class or take individual lessons with me. I'd be happy to help you if that's what you need. And that's all from me for today. I'll see you in another class soon. Bye.